Tantor Audio, a division of recorded books, presents I Just Wanted to Save My Family, a Memoir, by Stéphan Pélissier. Translated by Adriana Hunter. Narrated by Simon Vance. First of all, my name is Stéphan Pélissier. I'm 47 years old. I live in Albi, a small town in southwest France, with my wife, Zena, and our 2 young daughters. I go to work, pay off my mortgage, and on Sundays we often go to my parents' house for roast chicken. As you can see, my life is unremarkable, ordinary, and that's the way I like it. I'm just like any other Frenchman. But I'm also a criminal who is condemned to 7 years' imprisonment by the Greek justice system in November 2017. My only crime was wanting to save my family, refusing to abandon my in-laws and their children to certain death as they tried to flee their native country, Syria, which had been torn apart by a conflict that has killed hundreds of thousands of people and sent millions more into exile. An ordinary Frenchman surrounded by a loving family. A Syrian woman, a brilliant lawyer who wanted to complete her studies in France, a country she'd always loved. And her parents, caught in the vice of civil war and then the horrors of an escape with a very uncertain outcome, buffeted between grasping human traffickers and inhuman laws. These are the people you will meet in this book. This is my story. It is our story. And when you have finished reading it, I hope you will feel it is yours, too. 1. Weddings. "What are you doing, Stéphan? We're going to be late." This must be the 10th time I've tied my tie today, but I can't get it right. I do it often enough, except that today I'm not just going to a meeting. I'm getting married. 2 little knocks at the door, and my mother comes in. She finds me facing the mirror in my bedroom in the family home, dressed impeccably from head to foot, but with my tie still askew. I'm starting to lose patience. My mother instantly understands the problem. "Give it to me, darling. Your father will fix it." He taught me in the first place. He's mastered this art. She soon comes back with a perfectly knotted tie, and I'm immediately calmer. I catch my mother looking at me in the mirror, full of pride and emotion. This gives me a chance to look at her, too, my mother, my mom, the woman who gave me the love that allows me in turn to love. She's dressed beautifully today, radiant with happiness and more than a little relief. She was starting to worry because I still wasn't married at 39. "You'll be down soon, won't you?" "I just need to arrange my pockets square and I'll be ready. I'm marrying the most beautiful woman in the world, so the least I can do is perfect my appearance." My fiancée isn't far away. While I've battled with my tie, Zena has been dressing in my parents' bedroom, helped by her Serbian friend, Jelena. My bride-to-be will wear a dress we bought together in Nancy, not very traditional. Just like our story so far, in fact. I race down the stairs, 4 at a time. A minute later, Zena comes down too. I gaze at her, so beautiful in her long bustier dress that accentuates her spectacular figure. She's wearing simple pearl earrings and a necklace of fine lace. To my way of thinking, it's obvious. A Hollywood star is coming toward me, smiling. The gentle toot of a car horn brings me back to the moment. The rental car has come to take us to the mairie, the town hall. All our guests are waiting outside. It's a short list, my close family and my closest friends, about 30 of us in all. Because my future wife's family can't join us for the big day, I'm very glad Jelena is here with her. My father takes my fiancée's arm, and my mother takes mine, and that's how we make our entrance at Castelginest's mairie. My father has put on his red, white, and blue sash. We are especially lucky. As Castelginest's town councillor, he will conduct our marriage ceremony. This makes me very happy, and I hope it's a source of pride for a man I've always been afraid of disappointing. "Come in, my friends," he says in a powerful voice, and our little gathering settles into the mairie's only room. Zena and I stay standing, side by side, facing my father, who has donned his glasses to read to us from the Civil Code. But before he starts, he puts the text down for a moment and looks at us. "My children, I'm the happiest of men this morning. I have the pleasure of officiating the marriage of my son, Stéphan, to the woman he loves. Not only am I witnessing my son's happiness, I also have the pleasure of welcoming Zena into our family. I know what's happening in Syria, and I'm painfully aware of what your parents are going through. Welcome, Zena. You will be like a daughter to me now." The exchange of vows will be imprinted on my memory for the rest of my days. Although we're speaking to my father, Zena and I turn to face each other, and our yeses echo in the small hall. Zena's is serious and gentle, mine resonant and vibrant. Caught up in the momentousness of our promises, neither of us smiles. After posing for a few photographs in the Mairie's garden, we all head for the restaurant near Toulouse that we've rented out for the occasion. The order of the day is a very simple reception with a few speeches, music, some of it Greek, some of it Middle Eastern, and champagne. I stand up to speak just before dessert. "Dear friends and family, thank you for being here today. My darling, I'm so happy to be your husband, even though I still don't know how I got you to fall in love with me. It's a miracle, but God is great. Every religion says so." My friends laugh out loud, and Zena smiles. "Thank you for coming to be with us today," I continue. "Some of you from a long way away. I'd like to remember those who are no longer with us, who we wish were here, and also people dear to me who couldn't join us, my wife's family. A special thank you to my close family, my sister, Sandra, my niece, Charlotte, and you, my parents. Lastly, of course, I want to talk about the woman who became my wife today, Zena. I'd like to pay tribute to you for your sensitivity, your erudition, your cooking, and your strong personality. And, of course, I must mention your physical beauty and your inner beauty. I would like to honour your culture by reading an extract from the Holy Koran, Surah 113. Daybreak, Al-Falak. I take refuge with the Lord of Daybreak, from the evil of what he created, and from the evil of the darkness as it gathers, and from the evil of those who practice sorcery, and from the evil of the envious when he envies. Now it is Zena's turn to stand, and her whole body seems to be quivering with emotion. I'd like to thank my parents-in-law, Claude and Marianne, and my sister-in-law, Sandra. They've welcomed me and taken me in as one of the family. They respect who I am and my origins. My thoughts are also with those who are far away, but are always in my heart, my parents, whom I love so much. They have accepted my choices and trusted me. They love Stéphan, and have welcomed him as he is. Lastly, I'd like to thank you, Stéphan, the man who is now my husband. I love how sensitive you are, and I love your strong character, too. As you all know, sparks can fly with us two. I promise I will be faithful, loving, and true to you. My wife sits down amid the applause, looks at me, and kisses me. "To the happy couple" reverberates around the room, not for the first time, as the restaurant manager brings in the wedding cake, which was delivered by the local patisserie this morning. In pride of place at the top of this sculpted confection stand a tiny bride and groom in pulled sugar. My head's spinning a little, if I'm honest. Zena's eyes, the champagne, my friends' smiles, children laughing as they run between the tables. And it all happened so quickly. To think that 15 months ago I hadn't even met Zena. At nearly 38, I'd been invited to most of my friends' weddings and had watched them start families one after another. Meanwhile, although I couldn't say why, it hadn't happened for me. I'd had a few serious relationships in between long periods on my own. Either way, I'd never felt ready to commit forever, and the breakups had been painless enough to convince me I'd made the right decision. I hadn't given up, though. I was still hoping the right person was out there for me somewhere. So I regularly signed up for dating sites for a few weeks, met someone I liked, and then returned to the site once I was single again. In late April 2011, I logged onto another dating site, full of my usual optimism. I perused the site and almost intuitively felt I should check all of France, rather than restricting myself to the Toulouse region, as I had always done. A photo of a beautiful stranger appeared, a black-and-white portrait, completely dominated by her incredible eyes. I got lost in them for a moment before noticing that the young woman, whose username was Venus, lived in Nancy, more than 800 kilometres away. Not very sensible, but who cared? So I sent a message to introduce myself. Venus's answer didn't keep me waiting long, but it had the effect of a cold shower. Venus: I've just had a look at your profile before answering, and I really don't like the way you operate. I'm looking for a serious relationship. I refuse to be with someone who's not only already in a relationship, but, worse than that, doesn't say so clearly. Me: I don't understand. I'm single, I promise. Venus: Of course you are. But you're hoping to meet someone a long way away from where you live, and you use a profile photo where it's obvious there's a young woman standing next to you. What an idiot. I looked closely at my profile photo, and she was right. Next to me, as I stood there grinning, was a woman's shoulder and a tumble of long black hair. It was just my sister, Sandra. The picture had been taken at a baptism, and it was the only decent one I had of myself. I'd cropped the image as best I could, but that wasn't enough. Okay, so I now had to convince Venus that I was genuine. Me: That's my sister next to me in the photo. It was taken at a family party. I'm looking for a serious relationship too, and if you give me the chance, if you'll agree to meet me, I'm sure you'll believe me. Venus: I don't know. I need to think about it. Me: Okay, take your time. Speak soon, I hope. For the next 3 days of feverish waiting, she was all I could think about. Then, finally, Venus contacted me again, suggesting I call her. I was over the moon and did everything I could to prepare for that phone call. When she picked up, I forgot everything I'd planned and lost myself in the sound of her voice. We talked for nearly 2 hours, but the time just flew by. A few phone calls later, Venus agreed to a Skype call. When the connection was made, I was struck by the contrast between our two faces on the screen. I had a huge, very nervous smile. Even I thought that I was overdoing it a little. Meanwhile, she eyed me imperiously, although she later admitted she was just as nervous as I was. I can't remember what I said during that conversation, just that I was hopeless and awkward, but sincere and open. When she ended the call after about 20 minutes, I was the happiest of men. I finally knew her real name. My name's Muzayan, but everyone calls me Zena. In the space of a few weeks, we got to know each other over the phone and on Skype. Zena told me she was Syrian. I didn't know anyone from her country, and had been studying at Nancy University since 2007. She already had 2 master's degrees in law, and was now working on a thesis on penal law. She was, in fact, already a lawyer in Syria. Her parents had brought her up with a taste for French culture, and like her brothers and sisters, she'd been learning to speak French since she was 4. After a first, very brief marriage, which ended in divorce a few months later, Zena wanted to experience life in France and pursue her studies in more detail, having already excelled as the valedictorian of the law school at the University of Damascus. She had qualified as a graduate teaching assistant in Damascus, taken a language exam to confirm that she would be able to study in France, and secured a grant from the Syrian government to go to Nancy University. After 2 or 3 more Skype conversations, we wanted to meet for real. We decided to rendezvous in Lyon, a city we both wanted to visit and that was more or less equidistant from each of us. I arrived a few hours before she did, and planned to be waiting at the end of the platform when she alighted from her train. I don't know how I managed this, but I got to the platform late. My trademark, according to Zena. In the end, we met in the station's corridors. My first thought was, not a chance, Stéphan. It'll never work. She's too beautiful for you. Way too beautiful for you. Her profile photo, and even what I'd seen of her on Skype, hadn't prepared me for the gorgeous woman walking toward me. By the end of our weekend in Lyon, I was hopelessly in love, and when I took Zena back to the station, I didn't want to waste any time. If you're okay with it, I'll come to Nancy next weekend." She was stunned, and I noticed her hesitate for a moment. Yes, okay, come." After that, it all happened very quickly. We decided that, after we were married, we would live together. So before the wedding, Zena came down to join me in Toulouse, and then we moved to Albi, where I worked most of the time, which meant I had more time to be with Zena. The fact that she was a PhD student meant she didn't need to live in Nancy. She could work just as well in the southwest, and could get on a plane when she needed to see her advisor. We started talking about getting married 6 months after we met. Zena was able to meet my parents at a very early stage, and we both felt that it was important that she officially introduce me to her parents before the wedding in Castelginest. My dearest wish was to travel to Damascus, but with the Syrian civil war raging, I couldn't get a visa. Meanwhile, Zena's parents soon realized that they couldn't secure the necessary permission to come to the ceremony in France. Zena then came up with the idea of arranging not only a meeting, but a real wedding celebration in the Lebanese capital Beirut, which is only about 100 kilometers from Damascus. So here we are, at the start of July 2012, in a taxi taking us from the airport to our hotel in the Hamra neighborhood of Beirut. Manal, Zena's sister, came to meet us, having arrived the day before with her husband Khaled and their children. Zena chats happily with her sister. She hasn't stopped smiling since we got on the plane. She can't wait to see her family and watch them meet me. I know her parents have a sufficiently modern outlook to have supported their daughters just as much as their sons in their studies and career choices, but I'm anxious that cultural differences could mean they will have reservations about me. Zena told her father about me very soon after we met. Once he knew she was serious about the relationship, he voiced his qualms. Zena should finish her degree in Europe and go home to exercise her profession as a lawyer and university lecturer, rather than settling in France. And what work would she get there anyway? He could understand that she had feelings for me, but it was a big leap to be considering marrying someone so different from her when she'd already had one failed marriage. In other words, I'm not exactly heading into conquered territory. It's Thursday evening, and Zena's parents will be arriving on Saturday morning. Manal and Khaled have decided to spend the day with us on Friday to show us around the Beirut region. In glorious sunshine, we drive out of the capital and visit the coastal city of Jounieh. Zena and Manal have 1,000 things to talk about, of course, and while they chat, Khaled and I discover that we have a lot in common. It turns out we both work in law. Our conversation is animated. I try to stay optimistic, Stéphan, but I'm worried for my wife and kids. I'm known to be against the regime, and in my work for the last 18 months I've defended only objectors. That can't help winding some people up. Have you had threats? More than once. Manal and I are holding out for now. If things get any worse, she wants to move to France. Well, if you reach that decision, you can count on us to help. Thank you, my friend. We haven't come to that yet, thank God, but I won't forget your offer. After lunch we take a cable car, which affords breathtaking views over Jounieh Bay, and brings us to the town of Harissa with its famous shrine, Our Lady of Lebanon. My Muslim in-laws are keen to show me this important site of Christian pilgrimage, demonstrating the genuine respect for other monotheistic religions that every true Muslim has. I wake early the following morning, very conscious of how important the day ahead is. Zena and I are expecting her parents to arrive during the morning for the official introduction. I've had just one telephone conversation with her father a few weeks ago. I wanted to call him as a mark of respect. They're late, but we're prepared for that. The road from Damascus to Beirut is punctuated with checkpoints that make progress very difficult and journey times impossible to predict. The telephone rings. It's reception, letting us know that my fiancé's parents have finally arrived. We go down to meet them in the hotel lobby. Zena does the introductions, starting with her father. Dad, this is Stéphan Pélissier, the man I've chosen to marry. Welcome to our family, Stéphan. Zena's told us so much about you. We're very happy to finally meet you. Sefeddin al-Khatib comes up to me, shakes my hand, and draws me toward him for a hug. His firm grip immediately communicates all the energy and determination that this man has already demonstrated so many times in his life. "Mom, this is Stéphan, my future husband." Wafa al-Khatib looks at me but says nothing. Zena has warned me that she's extremely discreet and reserved. I pause for a moment, hesitant and embarrassed. Would it be appropriate and respectful for me to shake her hand or to kiss her? I hadn't thought to ask Zena about this. Rooted to the spot by this conundrum and paralyzed at the thought of committing a blunder, I stay where I am, with my arms hanging limply, and it's Wafa herself who comes to my rescue by stepping forward and taking my hand in hers, while her face lights up with the kindest of smiles. I tell her quietly that I'm happy to meet her, and her soft, warm hands communicate her kindliness and love as a mother more eloquently than any words could. With Zena's parents are her other sisters, Mayada and Mirvat, and her younger brother, Anas. They exuberantly rush over to me as soon as the introductions to her parents are finished. We chat for a while, and they are as relaxed with me as they are speaking French. Soon we all head up to our suite, where Zena and I busy ourselves serving refreshments. I notice Wafa is now carrying a huge dish of vine leaves stuffed with rice. I'm overwhelmed with emotion because this dish encapsulates my childhood. It's what my Greek maternal grandmother Vula Paraskevi used to make for me all the time. Granny called them dolmas. Here they say yelanji, but when I taste them, I rediscover the exact same pleasures of this simple yet delicious dish. The moist rice, the soft crunch of the leaves, the combination of hot spices and cool mint. In a flash, I'm 9 years old again, sitting at Granny's little kitchen table, and she's watching me eat my favourite food with my fingers while she tells me a story from my mother's childhood. This dish is my family, and here it is being served by the family of the woman I'm going to marry. This is wonderful. It's the universe giving us its blessing. The whole family has arranged to meet at a restaurant at 7 o'clock. We're on the Corniche Beirut, a wide seafront esplanade on the promontory with incredible views over the Mediterranean. Nearby, the old lighthouse, a tall, tapered building with black and white stripes, seems to watch over us. Zena has changed into a cream-coloured silk dress with a light matching wrap, and her hair is held in a headband embellished with feathers that form a flower shape. She's radiant. This first evening will be the most private. Only Zena's parents, her sisters, brother, and other members of her close family are invited. We walk through the front of the restaurant, and at the back we find a pretty terrace with sea views. We all take our seats around the spread of salads, grilled meats, and other meze, looking forward to a family feast. It's a very enjoyable meal, with a succession of different groups at each table as we regularly swap places to keep the conversation varied. After dinner we go back inside, where a room has been reserved for us to dance the night away. For Zena and me, this evening isn't just a party. It really is a ceremony, a sacred moment in our relationship. We now tell our friends and family, including our daughters, that we were married in July 2012, first in Beirut and then in Castelginest a few days later. After this intimate party at the restaurant, we continue celebrating our union with friends and family for the next 2 days, but it's this first evening that's really imprinted on my heart. These are the best days of our lives so far, and we should be completely happy. But our parents haven't even met, and that's something we must accept. But Zena can't show me her country, and that's something we must accept. But her parents can't see what her life is like in France, and that's something we must accept. Because our love is powerless in the face of a violent civil war that erupted just when our relationship first started. In April 2011, when we were exchanging our first emails, Syria saw an unprecedented wave of protests. The regime's reaction was swift and brutal. Demonstrators were shot at with live bullets and tortured, and thousands of people were taken in for questioning. In July 2012, while we were celebrating our marriage, the conflict grew fiercer and more entrenched, with the repression of protesters increasingly savage, and the Islamic State took advantage of this chaos to advance on Syria. How could we hope this conflict wouldn't affect us? How could we think this war would have no consequences for all of us, from Damascus all the way to France? 2. 4,000 kilometers. After our wedding, Zena and I settle into the same happy routine enjoyed by millions of couples in France. We love each other and we have plans to have children and build a house. But there's a permanent shadow hovering over our happiness. Knowing that Zena's family is so far away and so beyond our reach, it's tough for me, but much worse for my wife. French television channels present us with terrible images of the conflict tearing her country apart. Week after week, there are more reports about demonstrations being quashed with appalling bloodshed and about armed conflict between the rebel army and government forces. Sitting and watching our screen at home, all we feel is sheer rage at our powerlessness and terror that our loved ones are in danger. When we next see Zena's family, in Beirut in March 2013, Zena is 4 months pregnant. We're both very happy and have set our hearts on telling them the news in person. But oh, the contrast between our quiet lives and what Wafar and Sef are going through. Not long after our wedding, they had to move because their lovely apartment on the outskirts of Damascus ended up in a war zone. My heart constricts as Sef describes the cramped accommodations they managed to find at very short notice, and their landlord who takes delight in ramping up the rent. War creates a lot of casualties and a handful of fortunes. Zena and I asked them, the first of many times, to leave their country to join us in France. She and I talked about it all through our flight, and she naively thought that our unborn child would clinch the argument, persuading them to flee. But, convinced that they are safe in the centre of Damascus, Sef refuses to give in to terror. It will be more than a year before he makes up his mind to ask France for help. To no avail. Zena is devastated. Fear eats away at her. Week after week, month after month, the situation in Syria worsens. My wife is losing sleep over it, traumatized by images on TV and social networks. I, meanwhile, am outraged. I wish Sef and all his family could join us as soon as possible, but I understand his indignation. No human being should have to flee his or her own home to escape bombing. And when it does come to that, they shouldn't have to plead with a peaceful country to save their lives. Either way, there's nothing I can do. Nothing. And it's driving me crazy. I can't reassure my wife. She has so many reasons to worry. I can't take her family out of harm's way. It's not in my power. I can only ball my fists with rage as the TV shows me bombings, ravaged landscapes, civilian victims, exiles, and the unshakable, triumphant Bashar al-Assad. 3. Living and growing up in Bashar al-Assad's Syria. Anas's story. I think I realized very early on that nothing in life happens as planned. I already thought about this a lot when I lived in Syria. Obviously, not many young people who live with their parents have hectic lives full of shocking surprises, but when you go to school in Damascus, things are very different. The civil war started when I was just 13, and I'd already had friends disappear overnight or come to school in tears because they'd lost a loved one, either killed in a confrontation or taken in one of the regime's arbitrary roundups. But my parents, my sisters, and I were convinced that we could and should stay in Damascus. Looking back, I don't know how we held out for so long. My parents were forced to move for the first time in 1997. The government had labelled their neighbourhood an area of historical interest and had expropriated their house. They ended up on very short notice in Husseinia, in the outlying southern suburbs of Damascus. Luckily, 4 years later, my father managed to get a house not so far from central Damascus. But in 2012, they had to abandon that home, which was now in a war zone, and move to a tiny apartment closer to the city centre. It was tough, both psychologically — we'd lost a lot of our creature comforts — and financially. Our landlord raised the rent every month because he knew we didn't have a choice. Even so, we clung to the city where we had all been born, and the country for which my father had fought in his day. Stéphan and Zena kept saying we should leave Syria and join them in France.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?